Right. So we have been discussing about, did we discuss this part? We discussed about poetic techniques. Okay. Right. We will move on from there. Right. Did we discuss this part? This part? Did you write this quotation? Right. So actually this quotation continues from here. Now the first iteration occurs when words are used in succession or at least appear close together and begin with the same letter. For example, cover, cancel in the second line. And we have examples, reach the ravaged place. So there you have the r sound, reach, ravaged place, that can be identified as alliteration. Now what do you mean by alliteration in literature? What is the meaning that we give for alliteration? Repetition of the consonant letters at the very beginning of the letter, particular word. Now here we have reached, ravaged, they all are, and we have used them at the very beginning of that. That can be identified as alliteration. What do you mean by assonance? Repetition of the vowel sounds at the very beginning of the vowel sounds and consonant sounds. Did you understand? So alliteration refers to, we are going to use consonant letters in order to create a consonant sound at the very beginning of the word. That is the technique that we discussed. After that, we are going to discuss another technique called caesura. Now, this technique is also very much important. So, if you read the poem very carefully, you can identify this technique is also used in a couple of places. First and foremost, we will try to understand what do you mean by caesura. Caesura is a pause that occurs within a line of poetry, usually marked by some form of punctuation, such as a period, it can be a comma, it can be ellipsis, or else a dash. A caesura doesn't have to be placed in the exact middle of a line of poetry. Now, normally you don't have to put exactly in the middle of the line. It can be placed anywhere after the first word and before the last word of a line. So take this example. For example, line number 28. Not a dull moment. Can you see a full stop in the middle? Right. That is what we call caesura. No one can complain. Having a pause between two lines. Can you understand? So caesura is actually keeping a pause between two lines. In order to create caesura, we can have a full stop, or else we can have a comma, or else ellipsis, or else a dash, right? So necessarily it should not come in the middle, as I have explained here, right? It can be sometimes, as I have told you, it can be placed anywhere after the first word and before the last word of a line. So example, I have given you 28, line number 28, not a dull moment, full stop, no one can complain. Having pause between two lines. Did you get that? Hurry up and write down. Tineth, I hope that you can hear me, right? Make sure to write down. We are still discussing the poetic techniques related to your prescribed poem, The Big Match, 1983 by Yasmin Gunaratnam, right? So we discussed all the 7 stanzas, and today we hope to write some target questions as well. This poem is the longest poem in your syllabus, so definitely you have to pay your attention, because the poem is a little bit difficult to understand. When we are going to discuss about the poem, we have to have some kind of considerable knowledge about the historical incident actually influenced the poetess to write this poem, that is 1983 Big Match, the communal clash which occurred between Sinhala and Tamil community. The entire poem is written about that, and has presented the poem in 7 stanzas. The beauty of the poem is such that each and every stanza explains different ideas, or else it has been presented in different perspectives. This is what we have to understand, right? So very much important. Please make sure to pay your attention and write down. So we have discussed several poetic techniques, and today we started with alliteration. I explained you what do you mean by alliteration. Alliteration refers to using consonant letters at the very beginning of a letter or else a word in order to create consonant sounds. So I have given some examples, and then today we started our discussion with caesura, right? Caesura means keeping a pause between two lines. It can be a full stop, it can be or else a dash, or else a comma. So the example I have given to you in line number 28. Hurry up and write down. Please pass me a message if you guys have finished. Then we will move on to the next part. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask. So the poem is a little bit difficult to understand. Make sure to write down all the details. Poetic techniques will be very much novel for you. So this poetic technique is something like that. You may have not heard about this poetic technique in your O-level classes. So make sure to write down. Right. What about Kinet Puta? Did you finish? Shall we move on to the next part? I hope that you guys have completed. Shall we move on? Right. Okay. Now we have been discussing about poetic techniques, right? Fine. Juxtaposition occurs when two things are placed side by side in order to highlight the comparison, right? This is what we call juxtaposition or juxtaposition. Occurs when two things are placed side by side for comparison, often to highlight the contrast between the elements. There are calm hands handling a clamoring telephone. Now, if you pay your attention very carefully, they have used two different words. Number one, calm, and the next one is clamoring. So calm and clamoring, they have different meanings. So the basic idea here is that to create contrast. Now I have explained that in this manner. Hope you guys can understand. Pay your attention. Juxtaposes the idea ringing of the phone is continuous in order to know the well-being of the neighbors, which means that the phone is ringing continuously, right? The neighbors, they wanted to know about the well-being of that particular person, right? Almost all the Sinhala majority did not engage in the violence. Can you understand? There were a set of people who understood the problem and they were intelligent enough to understand this is actually ravaged by the petty politicians. We should not fall into the trap. And there are certain better Sinhala community as well. If you have watched movies like Saroja, you may have realized that a Sinhala man comes and saves the child, the Tamil girl, right? So we can't say that each and every person who represented Sinhala majority is bad or else vulnerable. There are some people, right? There were some people. So they are curious to know what had happened to the loved ones. So these particular people, they were continuously calling. So that is why the telephone is ringing. That ringing is actually explained here as clamoring. That is the word that they have used. The phone is ringing continuously. But the person who was about to answer the phone is not panicked. Even though now you have not faced the incident. Now who has faced the incident? I have faced the incident. You are calling me. What is your urgency? What is your urgency? You wanted to know what has happened to me. I don't have the same urgency to tell you the reason. Can't you understand that? Now you wanted to know. That is why you are continuously calling. Do you think that I have the same urgency to tell each and every person what kind of situation that I had faced or I am about to face? Can you understand? Because can you remember this person was drunk. This person was drunk, right? Because of these problems. And he's the one who says, I sent the Padmini and the girls to the neighbor's house. He explains that situation, Puta, when he got the call. So the person who is calling him, asking about his well-being and the well-being of his family members. So he says, I sent Padmini and girls to the neighbor's house. I am okay. I have increased the level of alcohol as well, because however, I am going to die. I am ready to die. But I was so much concerned about my family members. However, I am going to die. That is okay. So you can see the idea. The person who is calling, he had lot of urgency to get to know about the future of this particular person. But the one who is going to answer the phone, he does not show that much of urgency. That is what we call calm and the clamoring telephone. Can you understand? So even though the telephone is clamoring, he is not so much urgent to go and answer the phone because he knows that this particular person can't help. In that stanza, he explains that I know that you can't help, but I am happy because some lines have not yet been cut. Thank you for calling. I know that you can't do anything because the majority of the Sinhalese are against us. But I am really happy. Our connection refers to what? The connection that we had with the Tamil community. For a long period of time, we continued a very good relationship with the Tamil community. Can you understand? Because of these opportunistic politicians, we have broken that. But yet, there are certain lines which survive. This line is something like that. Can you understand? So that is what he says. Even though the person who is calling me, he is very much urgent to know about this, but I am not panicked. I am not that much urgent to tell him because even though I told him, I personally know that this is not going to work. He can't help. That is important. They are curious to know what had happened to the loved ones, but the person who was about to answer the phone is not panicked. That is important, right? That is where you have to pay your attention. He is not panicked. That part is very much important, right? He is not panicked. I will highlight that. So here I said, if you read very carefully, you can understand they are curious to know, which means they are panicked, right? They are curious to know. But if you read, right, the particular person who is going to answer the phone, he is having calm hands because he is not panicked. So this is the difference that you have to understand because he knew about his fate and the ones who are calling cannot do anything about that. Cannot do anything about that. Can you remember the quotation? Thanks for ringing. Thanks for ringing, right? Thanks for ringing, but I know you can't do anything, but thanks for ringing, but you can't do anything. I'm really happy, at least you called me. So this is what we call juxtapose. Hurry up and write down. If you have any problems, please make sure to ask. Students, hurry up. You can refer to the poem and check, right? Hurry up and write down. පුතේ තේරුණාද මං කියන එක? ඔයාලට පැහැදිලිද? දැන් ඔතන calm hands clamoring telephone කියලා කියන්නේ දුරකථනයේ දිගින් දිගටම මොනවා වෙනවද? නාද වෙනවා. මිනිස්සු කතා කරනවා මෙයාගෙන් අහලා දැනගන්න මොකද්ද ඔයාගේ පවුලේ අයට උනේ. හැබැයි මෙයාට කතා කරන අය තරම් හදිස්සියක් නැහැ ජංගම මේ දුරකථනයට පිළිතුරු දෙන්න. ඇයි? මොකද්ද හේතුව? ඇයි? මොකද මෙයා දන්නවා එයා උත්තර දුන්නට අර කතා කරන අයට ඇවිල්ලා එයාට සහාය දෙන්න පුළුවන් තරම් ශක්තියක් නැහැ. අනිත් එක කොහොමත් එයා මොනවා වෙනවද? මැරෙනවා. ඉතින් එයා කලබල වෙන්නේ නැත්තේ ඒකයි. අන්නේ වෙනස තමයි calm hands clamoring telephone වලින් පෙන්නන්නේ. The person who is calling, he is more urgent to know what will happen. It will give some kind of sensation to him. එයාට මාර සතුටක්. පවුලේ අය මැරුණාද? ඔයා බේරුණාද? පුච්චලද මැරුවේ? ඒව දැනගන්න එක කෝල් කරන අයට පොඩි ආතල් එකක්. හැබැයි පුතා එයාට වැඩක් නැහැ. Because he has already understood what will happen to him. Definitely these mobs will come and kill me. I am ready to die. But I have assured the security of my wife and daughters. I have secured. I have assured that. තේරුණාද පුතාට මං කියන එක? Right, very good. ලියා ගන්න. එහෙම තේරුම් ලියා ගන්න බොරුවට ලියන්න එපා. Don't write like that. තේරුම් අරගෙන ලියන්න. Tineth, did you finish? Shall we move on to the next part? Can you hear me, Tineth? I hope that you can hear me. So we have been discussing about the poetic techniques today. Once we finish the poetic techniques, we will discuss a target question. Then we have to start our new poem, that is Upside Down by Alexander Kushna. Oh, I think we will start. What is the poem that we have? Now we are doing big match, right? After the big match, what do we have? Grade 10. Ah, yes. Johnson Nagar. Right. So, Pute, did you finish? Try to understand techniques, and this poem is actually a free verse, right? This poem is actually a free verse, right? Free verse means there is no particular rhyming pattern, right? So when you are writing this kind of incident, that is the most suitable. That will be the most suitable technique, because without thinking about the rhyming pattern, the poet or the poetess can freely explain his or her emotions, right? So this can be clearly identified as a very powerful poem because of the techniques, right? Number of techniques can be seen. If you pay your attention, you can understand number of techniques, right? So we don't have a rhyming scheme or anything like that, but number of schemes, number of poetic techniques can be seen. Right? Did you finish this part? Right. Okay. So we just started the poetic techniques. Under that, we discussed about first we started with alliteration, repetition of the consonant sounds at the very beginning of the word. Then we discussed about caesura. Caesura means you are having a pause by using a full stop, comma, ellipsis, or a dash. That is what we call caesura in the middle of the line. And then we discussed about juxtapose. Juxtapose means keeping two different contradictory words together in order to show the contrast of a certain element. So the two contradictory words that we selected, calm hands and clamoring telephone. Now calm means it's silent. Clamoring means, right, you are making a lot of noise, noisy. Can you understand? So I explained her, what do you mean by here? Now the idea is that the person who was subjected to this communal clash, a lot of other people, Sinhala community or Tamil community, they were calling him. They wanted to know what happened to him, what happened to his family members, likewise. But he is not bothered to answer the phone because, number one, he knew that the people who are going to call me, they cannot help me. So there is no point of answering them. That is why he has got calm hands. He is not panicked. But I have explained here, as you can see, they are curious to know what had happened to the loved ones, but the person who was about to answer the phone is not panicked. Right? Who was about to answer the phone is not panicked. He was not panicked. There is no point of becoming panicked because he understood at the end of the day, these people cannot help me. So why should I try to be panicked? Can you understand? I hope you guys can understand. So we will move on to the next part, right? So you can start from there. Right. Another important technique commonly used in poetry is enjambment. Enjambment occurs when a line is cut off before its natural stopping point. This is also a technique, right? So when you are writing a poem, your line will not be cut off from the original point. The line will be taken to the next line. Without having a pause, the line will be taken to the next line. I will give you an example, then you will understand. Enjambment forces a reader down to the next line and the next line quickly. So when you have enjambment, what will happen? Since because you don't have a comma or any other punctuation mark, you will directly go to the next line, and you will finish the poem very quickly. You will read the poem very quickly. When it comes to free verse, we do that. Because in free verse, we don't have proper rhyming. Right? We don't have proper rhyming. Free verse means we freely write the poem without thinking about the rhyming schemes or rhyming words. Now here, if you pay your attention, one has to move forward in order to comfortably resolve a phrase or sentence. There are a number of instances in which this technique influences a reader's understanding of the text. They include the transitions between lines 15 and 16 as well as lines 31 and 32. Look at this line. We talk of 48 and 56. Now, of freedom should be here. This line should be here originally, but we have taken that line to the next line, right? We talk of 48 and 56. So the rest of the part I did not write here. I take the line to the next part of freedom and the treacherous politics. So this is what we call enjambment. We are not going to stop the line. We are going to take the line, the same line, to the next line in order to explain. Can you understand shifting the lines? Why we do that? Because that will help the reader to read the poem very quickly, especially when it comes to free verse poems. This cannot be done with proper rhyming scheme, especially if you take sonnets. We have a sonnet, right? Where we have 14 lines. In that type of poetry, we can't do this. Enjambment can be used in free verse, very frequent when it comes to free verse, right? So hurry up and write down enjambment, another technique. Venuja, can you hear me properly? Am I audible to you, Venuja? Okay, Buddha, right. Now we discussed about several techniques. We started with alliteration, then we discussed about caesura, then we discussed about juxtapose, then we discussed about enjambment, right? And the poem can be taken as under the category of free verse, where we don't have any rhyming scheme. Right. What about the online students? Did they finish? Shall we move on from there? Right, okay. So I hope that online students have also finished. So we discussed several techniques. Right, irony and symbolism. First and foremost, you have to remember, as literature students, irony can be identified as one of the major techniques when it comes to literature. In Sinhala, we use this technique as utprasaya. Anuprasaya නෙමෙයි utprasaya. අහලා තියෙනවා. උත්ප්‍රාසාත්මක යෙදුම්. අනුප්‍රාසය කියලා කියන්නේ අර අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තනේ alliteration assonance කියලා දෙකක්. නල බල සසල දල රල පෙළ නුඹ නැගෙන that is what we call alliteration, no assonance. In English literature it differs, right, where we have the consonant and vowel sounds, but in Sinhala we call that anuprasaya. එක ළඟ වචන යෙදීම හරහා ධ්වනිය සහ ලය උත්පාදනය. සිංහල සාහිත්‍ය කරනව නේද පුතේ? දැනගන්න බෑ ඒක. ඉංග්‍රීසි සාහිත්‍ය කලින් සිංහල සාහිත්‍ය දැනන් ඉන්න. Then we have something called utprasaya. උත්ප්‍රාසාත්මක යෙදුම්. මොකද්ද උත්ප්‍රාසය කියලා කියන්නේ? යමක් ඍජුව ජනිත නොකර වක්‍රාකාරයෙන් නිරූපණය කිරීම. In English we call irony refers to what you said is not what you meant. Can you understand? At what time the class starts? 11:30. Yes or no? Not you, don't take it personally. A student comes 12 o'clock. As the teacher, I tell him, Puta, would you like to have a cup of tea? Am I really going to give a cup of tea? What is the idea behind that? Puta, you are not welcome. You are not welcome because you are late. But without telling that idea directly, I use a technique that is called what? Irony. Ironical. Can you understand what I am telling? So when it comes to English literature, basically we have 3 types of ironies. Do you know about that? Do you have any idea about that? Right? Basically we have 3 types of ironies. I will explain that. So, right. So first we have verbal irony. So basically we have 3 types of irony. Number 1, we have verbal irony. Right? Then we have dramatic irony. Right? Then we have situational irony. Situational irony. Right? Don't write. Please make sure to pay your attention. What do you mean by verbal irony? Verbal irony refers to what you said. What you said is not what you meant. Right? What you meant. That is what we call verbal irony. Now, normally verbal irony happens when it comes to conversations. When we refer to certain conversations, only we use verbal irony. Right? Then we have dramatic irony. As the word suggests, most of the dramatic irony occurs in dramas. Can you understand? So in dramatic irony refers to the audience. The audience is aware what is going to happen. The audience is aware what is going to happen. Right? The audience is aware what is going to happen, but the actors are not. But the actors are not. This is what we call dramatic irony. The characters who play in the drama, they know, but they don't show that to us. Because when they read the plot, obviously they know what they have to act. Am I correct? Exactly. But as the audience, we have also read the drama, Singhabahu, and this thing and that thing. So we know that definitely this will happen. Can you understand? But the person who is acting on the stage or performing on the stage, he is showing us that he doesn't know anything. But as the audience, we know this is what happens because we have read the plot or something like that. Can you understand? Sometimes you may have watched the drama previously. So this is your 2nd time or 3rd time. Did you understand? Can you understand? That is what we call dramatic irony. Then we have situational irony, where irony occurs because of the situation. right? Because of the situation, right? Based on the situation, that is what we call situational light, right? Because of the situation. Now, what do you mean by situation? I will give you an example. Now, an accident occurs. An accident occurs. What should come? When an accident occurred, what should come? Ambulance. Yes or no? Ambulance should come. The ambulance will also face an accident. That is what we call situational light. Where we keep our money in order to keep them safe? Bank. We are pretty sure that nobody will come to the bank and rob the bank. But the bank is also robbed. Situational light. Can you understand what I'm explaining? The ambulance is there to treat the patients. But just imagine, even the ambulance also faces an accident. So as the general public, we have to help the doctors and all the nurses who came in the ambulance. That is what we call situational irony. Based on the situation, irony will occur. Can you understand? Before going for irony, first and foremost, students should know about these things. Verbal irony, dramatic irony, situational irony. Do you want to write down this? Write down. Hurry up. In simple terms, I explain this in simple terms. Online students, did you understand this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Buddha. Right, online students, I hope that you guys have completed this. So make sure to understand the concept of irony, something very much important, right? Okay. Right. Old books, calm hands, represents the knowledge and the educated people who try to safeguard their knowledge, knowing their vulnerability. So at that time period, people were driven with emotions. People were driven with emotions. They did not think in a logical manner. Now, if you take the what do you call the recent presidential election, where we selected Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, right? We also, majority of the people in the country, including me, we were driven with emotions. We thought that he can build up the nation, but we never thought that he will be the most unsuccessful president in the history of presidents. So sometimes we take decisions based on our emotions. Can you understand? So same thing happened at that moment. So here also, most of the people were driven with emotions. The speeches done at the cemetery by most of the monks and the politicians, they also influence the problem to the next level. So most of the time, educated people, they try to survive, but unfortunately, most of the people were killed. So this old books and calm hands, all these words clearly shows us the knowledge, not the calm hands necessarily, but you can take the word old books. Brave lads, right? Brave lads means ironical, verbal ironies there, suggests mobs. Mobs means people who participated in these communal violence under the influence of politicians. I told you, even though majority of the Sinhalese started this problem, the problem was influenced by whom? Opportunistic politicians. They are the ones who gave money to these young people and asked to do some kind of destruction. That is what they do even today. That is the theory of politics. Create a problem, create a conflict. Now the best example is Easter tax. The best example is Easter tax. Nobody knows who did that. Even the police, even the other people, even the politicians, now they are silent. The reason is everybody knows who is behind that, right? Who is behind that. But nobody is ready to talk. That's what happens, right? So they create conflicts. This is what you have to understand. Another day of fun and games, irony, verbal irony again, suggests the violent activities which has become a mad joy for the mobs who exciting them without any feeling of sympathy, who tries to enjoy that. Can you remember the third stanza? Where in the third stanza, we discussed that the poetess is comparing the communal clash with a big match. Where she explains that dizzier scores than any at the oval. Dizzier means sensation. So, just like all the young boys, especially in these Colombo schools, how they enjoy, right, vandalizing all the property and enjoying during the big match season, same sensation was experienced by these adults. So, can you compare the behavior of these adults with these teenagers? Teenagers, obviously, they are inexperienced. We can forgive them, but these adults, they also did the same thing, having a lot of experience. This is not what we expected from most of the adults, but they engaged in that sensation. So it's a very good comparison. Yeah, very powerful metaphor is used in the third stanza. So this is what it explains. Another day of fun and games. So people lost their natural day-to-day life, their behavior patterns, their social life due to this communal clash. Symbolical. Boatry. Can you remember the boatry? Where the scout man is going to take some kind of a security from there, symbolically shows one of the most sacred trees of Buddhists, where Lord Buddha used to attain enlightenment under Bo tree. The Bo tree supported Lord Buddha to achieve his success under the Bo tree, providing all the security from extreme weather conditions. According to the poetess, she is asking the question from the majority of the Buddhists, what happened to those noble principles? Buddhists are a set of people who worshipped and who respected even for trees. Jai Sri Bodhiya, in Anuradhapura, we go and worship. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Why? Because we show that respect, because that particular tree only provided security for Lord Buddha, right? We had that kind of noble principles when it comes to Buddhism. But the poetess is asking us from the question, what happened to those principles? Right? The stout man, not a stranger, the stout man was attacked by his own neighbor. His own neighbor. For a long period of time, they lived together. Right? The same Bo tree which provided security for Lord Buddha cannot provide same security for that stout man. So the poetess is questioning about the principles of Buddhist theory about Buddhism. So bow tree is very much symbolical. Can you understand? Hurry up and write down. Right. I hope that you guys have completed that part. So that part here it is there, symbols, visual imagery. So you can visual imagery means you can visualize the situations, right? You can visualize, even though now visually means the first thing that comes to our mind is mobile phone or else the TV, visuals, audio visual. You can listen and you can see. That is why audio visual methods are very much popular. That is why mobile phone is very much popular, because that is audio visual, right? But here we discuss about visual imagery. By looking at the words written by the poet or else the writer, if you can create mental pictures in your mind, if you go to a new world, if you reach to a new world, that is what we call visual imagery, right? Visual imagery, usually it is thought that imagery makes use of particular words that create visual representation of ideas in our minds. The word imagery is associated with mental pictures, as I told you. Out of the Palmyra fences of Jaffna, Bristol, 100 guns. So the sound effect of 100 guns can be heard out of the Palmyra fences in Jaffna. So you know Jaffna is situated in which province? So you can understand the poetess is referring to the violence occurred in that particular district, right? Bristol, 100 guns. Do you think that they are going to celebrate Holi by firing to the sky? No, Bristol, the 100 gun means definitely 100 dead bodies will be there. They are killing each other, right? They are killing each other. That is what the idea. Shop fronts in PETA, landmarks of our childhood. Now, have you gone to PETA in your life? You should go, right? So before going to India or Bangladesh or other countries, you should go to PETA. So most of us in our lifetime, we have seen that place. So when she uses that kind of diction, that kind of words, definitely our mind will go to PETA, right? So we can remember the place where people are shouting and we have a lot of stalls and sweet shops and toy shops and everything, right? Very busy place, very hectic place, right? So very powerful, right? Use of words. So this is what we call diction, right? That part you should know. This is what we call diction, the use of language, right? Diction. So here we have the word here, right? This is what we call diction, usage of words. This particular part, this is what we call diction, right? Using proper words to the proper place. Diction refers to using proper words, right? Using proper words to the proper place. That is what we call diction, right? Using proper words to the proper place. That is a talent actually, right? That is what we call diction. Screaming across our screens of agony. Agony refers to extreme pain. Agony means extreme pain, right? Agony, extreme pain. At last exposed, Sri Lanka burns alive. Can't you picture this? Sri Lanka burns alive. Won't you have the picture in your mind, the map of Sri Lanka, like the small mango? It burns. Sri Lanka burns alive. Now here, right, the poetess has used the word her. Who is her? Sri Lanka. So what is the technique there? Personification. Very good, right? Giving life to non-living things. That is also known as humanization, right? That is also known as humanization. We use that word as well. Very good. Personification is correct, right? So the poetess has given the word, she burns alive, right? So we can imagine when a girl is screaming loudly when she was burnt alive. So same mental picture can be created here when it comes to Sri Lanka. Very powerful images. In order to create these images, the poetess has used a very powerful set of words in literature that is known as diction. Usage of proper words to the proper place. Can you understand? If you are going to write a short story about a village, if the main character is a boy, what is the name of that boy? Sirimal or Peter? Sirimal or Peter? Sirimal. Obviously, you can't use the word Peter. If you are writing a short story about London, what is the name that you are going to use? Sirimal or Peter? Obviously, Peter. What's the difference? What's the difference? You can use the word Sirimal as well in the first context. But what is the problem? People won't believe the story. People won't believe the story. Or else in your story, the boy who lives in the village is excellent in English language. Believable or unbelievable? Unbelievable. So The audience should believe the story. In order to believe the story, you have to use set of words which are appropriate to the context. You have a short story called Apatat Vesikiliyak. Do you have short story called Apatat Vesikiliyak in Sinhala language? Have you noticed the language used by the people? Kunu inspector. Kunu inspector Mahatya. But what is the real name? Inspector. Inspector is the real word. How they pronounce? Inspector. So that is obvious because by reading we can understand not only the character's behavior, but their language is also influencing us. Can't you understand that? When we read that, we will feel it is believable. Can you understand? So there are certain stories which are unbelievable, but yet you like. Example, Harry Potter. You know that the entire story is actually a bullshit, but you enjoy. Have you practiced that? Ask the, what you call, broom from your mother, go to the, what you call, rooftop and try. Have you tried? Then you can try. That's not going to happen. We know that this is actually a fairy tale. It's not going to happen. But we like that, right? We like that. People love the imaginary world. That is called imagination. So J.K. Rowling, she is running all the novels in her perspective using visual imagery, right? So she knows that this is how we have to reach children, not only for children, but for the adults as well. Nowadays, most of the people who read all these Harry Potter books, they are bloody adults, not the kids, right? They really enjoy. So the stories, they are love, passion, hatred, vengeance, everything is there. But on the other hand, everything is based on imagination, right? Visual imagery. So we like to visualize, right? We like to visualize, we like to imagine the things that we don't have. We like to fly, but we can't do that. That is why we have Superman, right? So we just imagine, okay, like if he can do all these things, obviously, when I can do all these things, I will do this thing and that thing. But having all these powers, he becomes a natural, normal human being. Can you understand? That makes the difference. But if I get all these powers, what will I do? I will destroy the entire world, obviously. But he is not like that. Can you understand? So imagination is very much important. So here, the poetess has used imagination. And finally, we have what? Simile. We only have one simile. What is the difference between simile and a metaphor? Online students, what is the difference between simile and a metaphor? Simile is indirect comparison. Metaphor is direct comparison. My father is brave as a lion. Simile or metaphor? Simile. Brave as a lion. Like a lion. So indirect comparison. If you say, my father is a lion, metaphor. අපේ තාත්තා සිංහෙක් කියන්නේ රූපක. අහලා දෙනවද රූපක? අහලා නැහැ සිංහල වල රූපක. රූපක කියන්නේ මොනවාද? metaphor. simile කියන්නේ? අහලා තියෙනවනේ simile. අහලා නැහැ similes. men say වැනි විලස පාවිච්චි කරන මොනවාද ඒවලට කියන්නේ සිංහලෙන්? What is the word that we use? උපමා. උපමා සහ රූපක. උපමා සහ රූපක. Right? So here we have similes as well. We have number of metaphors as well in this poem, right? We have number of metaphors, but we only have one simile. Right? And write down. Okay, so now we have finished the poem. So we have to go through with the target questions. So before going to the target questions, I want you guys to write this one. This one, right? So this can be identified as the mind map. So mind map is very much important when it comes to your studies because this poem basically contains how many stanzas? 7 stanzas. So it is very much important to know in each and every stanza what is the idea that the poet tries to explain. Stanza number 1, can you read? Exactly. That is what she discusses in the first one, first stanza. Second one. Exactly right. 1948, 1956, 1958. What happened in 1948? Sri Lanka in the independence. But according to the poetess, it's not real independence. Second one, 1956, what happened? Mr. W.R.D. Bandaranaike introduced Sinhala Only Act. As a result of that, most of the minority groups lost their freedom to engage in speech, freedom of speech. That is a fundamental right that was violated, right? We call that infringement of fundamental rights, right? So violated. So they were motivated to do their speeches and their communication through Sinhala language, where most of them failed. As a result of that, they faced number of crucial circumstances. Online students remember these things. In 1958, what happened? All these things are happening step by step. That is why she uses the word, how did we come to this ravaged place? So we came to this ravaged place step by step. I hope you can understand. Then 1958, what happened? Very good. The first communal class Sri Lanka based on language and religion. That is the most important words that you have to remember. Stanza number 3 is very much important where she discusses about the communal clash, where she compares that the communal clash into a cricket big match. I explained this. Stanza number 4, the suffering faced by the general public and how their day-to-day lifestyle constrained. Constrained means slow down or else disturbed due to the communal clash. Stanza number 5, the suffering faced by general public, how people sacrifice themselves to save their family members, protection of women. If you can remember, I sent the Padmini and the girls to the neighbor's house. That quotation can be taken. Stanza number 6, the powerful connection between Sinhala and Tamil communities, even though politicians try to separate them. Today we discuss about that. Some lines have not yet been cut. Clamoring telephone, right? So he said that, thank you so much for calling me. I know that you can't help, but thank you so much for calling. This shows us some lines have not yet been cut. We have that relationship. Sinhala and Tamil community. We enjoyed Sinhala and Tamil New Year for a long period of time. We shared same culture, same tradition. They went to the Kovil, we went to the temple. They ate all these gulab jamun or whatever, and we ate all these kavun cookies and everything, right? We made milk rice. They made something very similar to that, right? Jaggery rice or something like that, right? So we shared the same culture. But what happened? These opportunistic politicians, they are the ones who separated us, right? Make sure to understand that we did not have any problem. These opportunistic politicians, they separated us. That is what she tries to explain. Very much important, right? Then stanza number 6, the powerful connection, we discussed that. Stanza number 7 discusses about the violence occurred all around Sri Lanka, creating very powerful visual imagery. The essence of the poem, or else the cream of the poem, is in the 7th stanza. The real destruction, the real damage, right? The real catastrophe is explained using the 7th stanza, right? So you have to study that, where she discusses about the situation of children, right? Smashed bicycle, right? And three boys were killed, and a stout man is trying to get security under a bow tree. Police look the other way. Blood stains are on khaki uniforms, right? Police look the other way, right? People look the other way. Nobody is going to care about these dead bodies. People became selfish, self-centered. They did not think about other people. So all these inhuman qualities are quite clearly portrayed in this particular stanza. So we are going to finish the poem, right? So this is the last part. So this is actually the longest poem in the Syllabus, definitely you will get a question. Definitely either a context question or else an essay type question, because this is the longest poem in the syllabus. So you have to go through this, because a huge message is there for the young generation, right? We can be the majority of the country, but yet now we can't have that kind of dividends, because under the new environment, we know that what kind of support is given by all these minority communities to our economy. So in order to continue our country, and we know that what kind of crisis that we have faced now as a country. So in order to continue our economical prosperity and the development of the country, we cannot interrogate. We have to discuss about national segregation, not about interrogation, right? If we are discussing about segregation, we have to interrogate. We have to get together, right? Then only we can provide that what you call success, or else that development that country uh, needs these days, right? So we should not think about you are a Tamil, you are a Muslim, you are a Buddhist, you are upcountry Buddhist. You have something like that also. Udarata Bauddha, Pahatarata Bauddha, something like that. Those things are actually should not be taken into consideration, because when we come to the development of the country, we have to support the development of the country irrespective of our race or religion or whatever. That is the basic idea as literature students that you have to learn. Did you get this? Right. So we will go for a target question. Hurry up and finish it off. Online students, hurry up.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, can't hear you.
Hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. So here, the racial element is the most important thing, the racial violence, or else we call the tragic element. So we have to go through the tragic element. If you don't understand that part, you can't write answers. Very much important. Please make sure to go through the question and try to understand the most important part. In any question, there will be a part like that. If you don't find that part, then you can't write the answers. Your answer should be centered around that, right? In this poem, you have so many things to discuss, right? But we don't need them. We don't need them in this particular question. Why is that? Because they have directly asked. That's it, right? Did you get that? Write down, we will stop from there. Next week, we can discuss the rest of the part. Right, so hurry up and write down. You can leave the meeting once you finish.